Hello. Right. Very good evening, everybody. Eid Mubarak. Wish you all the peace and all the glory that comes with the festival of Eid. Eid Mubarak. Um, for those of you who attended the live session yesterday or who watched yesterday's video, we covered some basic concepts related to modifiers. Um, and today we'll be practicing some questions related to those basic concepts. But don't worry if you're new to the session, if you're just starting off on this journey today, we'll recap some of what we covered yesterday, the bit that is essentially pertaining to the kind of questions we'll be solving. और क्वेश्चंस का भी पैटर्न हम ऐसे रखेंगे कि हम पहले बेसिक्स पे जाएंगे देन वील कवर सम इंटरमीडिएट लेवल क्वेश्चंस एंड फाइनली we land at some of the advanced level questions. But before we delve into all that, I would like to take this opportunity to give you an introduction to the Unacademy platform. Unacademy, perhaps today, is India's largest learning platform when it comes to preparing for competitive examinations and especially management exams like CAT. I am one of the educators on this platform. I am Prankur Arora. I have been in the corporate learning industry for a couple of years on matters related to communication, uh, efficacy when it comes to communication. I am also a published author. I wrote this book called It's Not Funny. It's a work of fiction. You can find it on Amazon. Uh, it was critically acclaimed. It was reviewed by the likes of, by the likes of Biswapati Sarkar, Papa CJ, etc., etc. Also, when it comes to coaching and training pertaining to subjects of leadership, I hold advanced certifications in that by an organization from an organization called Leadership Management International. And I'm an entrepreneur on the side. I run this organization called Tamasha Entertainment. So that's pretty much about me. Welcome to this journey of learning. I'll be taking you through various topics related to verbal aptitude and reading comprehension. These are some of the features that come along with the Unacademy platform that help it stand out and be a cut above the rest. On our platform, you get access to daily live classes where you can get to interact with your educator. आप हमारे साथ discussions कर सकते हो. You can ask us doubts, and there are live polls that we conduct while the class is going on. So you get access to all those features. All our courses are pretty structured, and they are in line with a syllabus that particular exam requires. All the courses are audited by subject matter experts. On the platform, there are a lot of live tests and quizzes that we conduct to evaluate the level at which you're working, so that you can tweak your learning journey accordingly. Plus, प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपको एक ही सब्सक्रिप्शन से यू गेट एक्सेस टू ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ recorded courses, live courses. You can access all kinds of educators who are available on the platform, and you get to do all that at the comfort of your place with the comfort of your device. Now, on our platform, there are quite a lot of educators who are subject matter experts. Like you can see, these guys have a lot of following and they have garnered that credibility over a period of time. On the platform, the USP is that you can access live classes and all the features that come along with those live classes free of cost, and then decide for yourself whether you want to subscribe or not. Batches हमारे और courses particular topic से related create होते रहते हैं platform पे, so that is another plus. Plus है क्या कि हमारे जितने भी courses हैं, they are created in vernacular languages, so that there is no language barrier when it comes to your attending a class and trying to internalize whatever the educator is trying to teach. Plus, you get to learn anytime, anywhere, at the comfort of your comfort of your requirements. Schedule आप अपना अपने हिसाब से बना सकते हो, because classes are happening all the time. Plus, live, even if you're not able to attend those live classes, उन classes की recording भी आपको मिल जाती है on the platform. Now, there is another very important thing that happens during a live class. We conduct these live polls, and you get to participate on those polls and strive for a place on the leaderboard. So that is another amazing feature that can create that excitement and competitive spirit within you. Now, according to me, the foremost requirement for any kind of learning journey is the ability to tweak your preparation according to your performance levels. And Unacademy gives you the opportunity to do that by providing you with detailed reports and analysis of your performance, right? So, all these insights are pretty in depth and they are topic wise, so you can get to analyze how you're doing and tweak your preparation accordingly, decide what you need to pay more attention to and what you are already pretty comfortable with. Plus आपको resources सारे provide हो जाएंगे once you start getting to our platform. Now let's begin with basically the requirements that are there when it comes to your accessing our daily live classes on the platform. It's a subscription based platform, so you can clearly see as the time period of your subscription increases, the price is going considerably down. Plus hota kya hai, whenever you're trying to learn something new with a new educator, there is some level of gestation period to develop that comfort level and that chemistry with the educators you really find interesting. So I would recommend that you go for a longer subscription so that you can develop that comfort level and that chemistry with your educators and with the kind of preparation that is required for the exam that you're preparing for. Plus, my name is Prankur, so if you use my first name as your referral code, you get extra discount to access the platform. So that's pretty much about Unacademy as a platform. Now let's delve into what we're really here for. We're here to practice some questions related to modifiers. Just to recap, modifier क्या होता है? Modifier are the kind those words and phrases that add additional information and description in a sentence. तो आपका बेसिक सेंटेंस होता है जिसमें सब्जेक्ट और वर्ब के बीच में अग्रीमेंट है एंड मॉडिफायर्स कम ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट बेसिक कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ अ सेंटेंस. Inherently, as we discussed yesterday, adjectives, adverbs, ये सारे words क्योंकि already descriptive words हैं, they are inherently modifiers. To add to that, there are phrases, basically a collection of words that become modifiers in a sentence. And today we'll basically pay more attention to those phrases, those longer phrases that are added in a sentence to modify the meaning of the sentence. उसके बाद हमने कल पढ़ा था कि देर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ मॉडिफायर्स. वन इज एसेंशियल मॉडिफायर्स एंड द अदर इज नॉन एसेंशियल मॉडिफायर्स. एसेंशियल मॉडिफायर्स वो चीज़ है जो दे अकॉर्डिंग टू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द सेंटेंस दे बिकम एसेंशियल टू व्हाट द मीनिंग ऑफ द सेंटेंस इज. अगर आप एसेंशियल मॉडिफायर उस सेंटेंस से हटा दोगे तो सेंटेंस का मीनिंग थोड़ा सा एम्बिगुअस हो जाता है, राइट. नॉन एसेंशियल मॉडिफायर वो वाले मॉडिफायर होते हैं जो additional information तो दे रहे हैं but they are irrelevant to the meaning of the sentence or the context of the sentence. Essential modifier में हम लोग punctuation marks use नहीं करते. Non essential modifiers में हम लोग punctuation marks use करते हैं like commas and hyphens and dashes and whatnot. Then we basically moved on to the three types of questions that are very common when it comes to modifiers. The first one that we discussed was dangling modifiers. अब डैंगलिंग मॉडिफायर्स क्या होते हैं? जब हमारे सेंटेंस में एक मॉडिफायर है बट उस मॉडिफायर का जो टारगेट वर्ड है वो मिसिंग हो जाता है, तो आपके मॉडिफायर का मतलब ही एम्बिगुअस हो जाता है. एंड वी डिस्कस दैट द कॉमन कंस्ट्रक्शन व्हेन इट कम्स टू डैंगलिंग मॉडिफायर्स, it is sentence 1 comma sentence 2, right? This is what we discussed yesterday कि dangling modifier में ये common construction आता है where sentence 1 आपका थोड़ा सा incomplete होता है and sentence 2 takes the onus of completing that sentence 1. Now a very important thing that we discussed yesterday was to solve questions pertaining to modifiers we ought to try and convert the modifiers into question. For example, नीचे मैंने question डाला हुआ है. Let's see this. Desiring some fame at school, a lot of time was invested in extracurricular activities. तो on the face value ये sentence हमें काफ़ी ठीक सा लग रहा है. हमें ठीक सा क्यों लग रहा है? Because when it comes to communication, especially spoken English, a lot of things are left unsaid. और वो spoken English में चलता भी है because when you're looking at someone, आपको उनके expression से, उनकी body language से sentence का meaning समझ आ जाता है. even if the sentence is not grammatically complete, आपको context समझ आ जाता है based on the other person's expressions and body language and whatnot. And even when you're reading something, even if the one of the sentences in a paragraph is grammatically a little incomplete, because you get the context from the entire paragraph, you're able to decipher the meaning of that sentence. But हमारे questions में क्या होगा, हमारे questions में context बहुत ही कम होता है. So therefore, when it comes to the questions that we'll solve, it is very very imperative that we try to make those sentences grammatically complete. Now, coming to this question, desiring some fame at school, a lot of time was invested in extracurricular activities. Now, the first question that you can, basically ask from this modifier is, who is desiring that fame, right? That is what is missing. Who is desiring that fame? Who invested a lot of time in the extracurricular activities? So the basic solution to this question would be कि आप उसमें एक subject डाल दो, आप उसमें एक noun डाल दो. For example, here I have solved this question, this case of dangling modifiers, by adding that target subject. Desiring some fame at school, I invested a lot of time in extracurricular activities. Now you can clearly see that ये जो पूरा modifier है, desiring some fame at school, this has a target noun. This has a target subject. I is what it is referring to. So the first part of solving such questions is you identify what the modifier is, and then you ask a question. You try to convert that modifier into a question, and then you get your answer कि subject क्या है या modifier का target क्या है. ठीक है? Let's move on to the second kind of questions that we discussed yesterday, the case of misplaced modifier. अब डैंगलिन के केस में आपका सब्जेक्ट जो है वो मिसिंग होता है, आपका टारगेट मिसिंग होता है. मिसप्लेस मॉडिफायर में क्या होता है कि जो आपका मॉडिफायर है, वट एवर इट इज रेफरिंग टू, इट इज प्लेस्ड अवे फ्रॉम दैट मॉडिफायर. सो द वेरी easy solution to solving some such questions is कि आप उस modifier को you bring it next to the subject or the word it wants to modify, right? So, and the second step is again the same. You try to convert the modifier into a question. For example, here I have written a sentence which goes, the director who failed to be punctual at the set fired the actor. Very simple, right? Who failed to be punctual at the set fired the actor. अब यहाँ पे confusion ये है कि director failed to be punctual या अपना actor failed to be punctual. So you have to figure that out from the meaning of the sentence. Who failed to be punctual at the set? It is very very easy from this sentence to understand that it was a dear actor who was failing to be punctual. Therefore, the director fired the actor. But from the sentence, just after reading it, आपको ये meaning समझ आता है कि director fail हुआ to be punctual at the set. Therefore, director fired the actor, which does not make any sense at all. Therefore, the solution to this will be you pick out that misplaced modifier and you put it next to the subject it wants to modify. So as you can clearly see from this solution is the director fired the actor who failed to be punctual at the set. ये आपका actor है who failed to be punctual at the set, and it is very very clearly making perfect logical sense. Now let's practice a little. ठीक है, ये हमने दो cases discuss कर लिए हैं, which is the case pertaining to placement of a modifier. And remember, as I mentioned at the beginning of the beginning of the session, we won't be dealing with simple words today. We'll be dealing with a collection of words. We'll be dealing with phrases when it comes to solving those modifier related questions. The first one, she saw two little puppies chasing after a fox on her way to work. She saw two little puppies chasing after a fox on her way to work. Now, you can clearly see that आपका two puppies chasing after a fox on her way to work. यहाँ से हमें लगता है that it's the fox who is going to work. But is the fox going to work or is she going to work? Right? So that's very very important for you to figure out that who is going to work and who is chasing after whom. यहाँ पे हमें लग रहा है fox काम पे जा रही है, but that is not the case. The solution to this will be, on her way to work, she saw two little puppies chasing after a fox. So it's very, very important for you to figure that out as to who. Try to solve this by yourself. Try to solve this by yourself. Driving all day around the desert, the town hidden in the countryside was reached around midnight. Now you have to understand that who was driving around the desert. This is जो हमने dangling modifier के केस में basically डिस्कवर किया था that the common structure of such questions is sentence 1 comma sentence 2 and the sentence 1 has to be modified by what comes right after the comma in sentence 2. So here you can see that the meaning that you derive from the sentence is that the town is driving all day around the desert, but the town cannot drive, right? So what we do is, this is a very clear case of a dangling modifier, and we insert a subject. Driving all day around the desert, we reached the town hidden in the countryside around midnight. Very, very easy. So the first one was a case of misplaced modifier, and the second one is a case of a dangling modifier. Now let's move on to the third one. Amazon sold the mobile phone to the customer with the accidental insurance contract. Right? Now, again, how will Amazon find a customer with the accidental insurance contract? Is the Amazon going into the market to survey कि कौन से customer के पास ऐसा contract है मैं उसी को mobile phone बेचूंगा? No, that does not make any sense at all, right? Because this accidental insurance contract is for the mobile phone. So we pick it up and we put it right next to the mobile phone. So Amazon sold the mobile phone with the accidental insurance contract to the customer, right? So as we discussed in the previous slide, you have to place it right next to the word it wants to modify. Now let's come to the last one. Bachendri Pal became the first Indian woman to climb the Mount Everest in 1984, right? So यहाँ पे in 1984 is your modifier. But the confusion that arises here is Bachendri Pal the first Indian woman to climb the Mount Everest in 1984? Or in 1984 there were quite a few women who climbed the Mount Everest, and within that group of women, Bachendri Pal was the first one. So that is the confusion what this kind of construction is creating, right? So here the confusion is whether in 1984 is modifying the verb became or is it modifying climb. ठीक है, एक केस में बचेंद्री पाल इज द फर्स्ट इंडियन वुमेन और दूसरे केस में बचेंद्री पाल इज द फर्स्ट विमेन within the group of women who climbed Mount Everest. Okay, so the solution to such questions would be you bring it right in the front. In 1984, Bachendri Pal became the first woman to climb the Mount Everest. Right? So we've covered how we want to solve questions pertaining to the case of dangling modifiers or misplaced modifiers. I'll conclude it by basically discussing the takeaways once again. In the case of dangling modifiers, you have to insert a target subject. You have to insert a target noun. In case of misplaced modifiers, you simply pick up the modifier and you place it next to the word it wants to modify. As simple as that. Let's practice a bit more now. Wanting to avoid plastic waste, the customers were supplied drinks in bamboo cups by the cafe. तो यहाँ पे मैंने 3 sentences list out करे हैं. You have to tell me which one is the correct sentence जहाँ पे modifier बिल्कुल correctly use हुआ है. ठीक है, I'll read out the sentences one by one. Wanting to avoid plastic waste, the customers were supplied drinks in bamboo cups by the cafe. ठीक है, let's move on to the second one. Wanting to avoid plastic waste, the cafe supplied drinks to the customers in bamboo cups. Okay. The third one. Wanting to avoid plastic waste, the cafe supplied the customers drinks in bamboo cups. Now we'll try to solve this one by one. ठीक है? अब यहाँ पे सबसे पहले who wants to avoid the plastic waste? Let's ask ourselves that question. This is the modifier. We ask ourselves this question. Who wants to avoid plastic waste? कस्टमर को अवॉइड करना है या कैफे को अवॉइड करना है? कैफे को अवॉइड करना है, राइट? बट इसमें हमें कह रहा है कि कस्टमर को अवॉइड करना है. सो दिस क्लियरली is not the correct way to go about doing it. The other two, wanting to avoid plastic waste, the cafe, और नीचे वाले में भी wanting to avoid plastic waste, the cafe. So these two are correct here. ठीक है. अब now our second modifier is basically is in bamboo cups. Now here you will see यहाँ पे लिखा है to the customers in bamboo cups. आपके कस्टमर बैम्बू कप के अंदर थे. The cafe supplied drinks to the customers in bamboo cups. Were your customers wearing bamboo cups? No. So यहाँ पे this becomes a case of a misplaced modifier. Therefore, when we move on to the third one, यहाँ पे supplied the customer drinks in bamboo cups, right? So here it is used perfectly right. दूसरे वाले में हमारा जो modifier है in bamboo cups, that is modifying the customers. But customers are not supposed to be modified. The drinks are supposed to be modified because drinks are what you serve in bamboo cups. You don't serve drinks to customers who are wearing bamboo cups. Yes? So what happens is sometimes your questions, they have these 2-3 types of modifier errors. So you have to go one by one. पहले हमने क्या सॉल्व करा? हमने डैंगलन सॉल्व करा. फिर दूसरे में हमने मिसप्लेस सॉल्व करा. So you have to move step by step. Now, let's move on to the next question. Used until the end of the Second World War, the Allied Army employed special fighter planes to attack both military or civilian targets. I'll give you a couple of minutes to read through the options and then we'll discuss how we're going to solve this question. Take a couple of minutes to read all the options. Right? So I guess you've read the options and now I'll move on to how we're going to solve this question. Clearly used until the end of Second World War. This is the common construction जो मैंने आपको बताया sentence 1, sentence 2. ठीक है. अब sentence 1 में हमारा modifier क्या है? Used until the end of Second World War. What was used until the end of Second World War? What was used? Special fighter planes were used. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे सबसे पहले आपको ये देखना है कि which option begins with special fighter planes. This one, okay. This one begins with special fighter planes. ये वाला पहले ही कट गया because comma के बाद सीधा allied army आ रहा है. So we are left with 3 options, out of which one is correct. क्योंकि used until the end of Second World War, what is used? Special fighter planes are used. Now let's move on to the second part of this question. The first option says special fighter planes were employed by the Allied Army to attack both military and civilian targets. ठीक है, face value पे ये हमें फिर भी ठीक लग रहा है. Let's move on to the second one and see if that is also structured correctly. Special fighter planes employed the Allied Army. ठीक है, ये हमारा गड़बड़ हो गया क्योंकि स्पेशल फाइटर प्लेन्स को एलाइड आर्मी ने नहीं एम्प्लॉय करा है, एलाइड आर्मी ने स्पेशल फाइटर प्लेन्स को एम्प्लॉय करा है. तो ये हमारा बिल्कुल गलत हो गया. लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द लास्ट वन. ओके, स्पेशल फाइटर प्लेन्स हैव बीन एम्प्लॉयड बाय द एलाइड आर्मी टू अटैक बोथ मिलिट्री एंड सिविलियन टारगेट्स. नाउ question was used until the end of Second World War. So this is clearly past. Second World War happened many years back and यहाँ पे have been used हुआ है, right? So this is present tense, which is again wrong. So therefore we have the first option being perfectly correct because वहाँ पे हमारा modifier वाला problem भी solve हो रहा है. Comma के बाद it is referring to the noun it is supposed to refer to, and your tense is also correct. It says special fighter planes were employed. So it is in the past tense. So this is how we're going to approach such questions. Now, the actor's consistent late arrival is offset somewhat by the remarkable quality of his performance. Read the options. Take 30 seconds to read the options. This is a smaller question and then we'll move on to the solution to this. ठीक है, अब ये जो अराइवल है हमारा, इसके लिए हमने एडजेक्टिव यूज करा है लेट. ठीक है, लेट से पहले हमने यूज करा है कंसिस्टेंट. इफ this is your adjective, this has to be your adverb. ठीक है, एंड एडवर्ब के लिए हमें आगे एल वाई लगाना पड़ेगा सो दैट दिस बिकम्स कंसिस्टेंटली. ठीक है, दिस इज योर नाउन, दिस इज योर एडजेक्टिव, दिस इज योर एडवर्ब. सो गाइज, in yesterday's session and even in today's session, I have not really discussed grammatical rules pertaining to adjectives and adverbs because I think you're pretty much, in line with those rules. So I don't want to delve into that. I straight away went to modifiers. But just in case you want me to discuss the rules pertaining to adjectives and adverbs, comment on the video. I'll create a small bite-sized video for the same. I won't create an entire lesson for it because I think आप सबको इतना basic grammar rules तो आते ही होंगे, but I'll do my best to create a bite-sized video so that you're up to date with those rules as well. Alright, so we can clearly see कि हमारा adverb बनेगा consistent, तो वो consistently हो जाएगा. ऑप्शन 1 हमारा डिलीट हो गया क्योंकि यहाँ पे कंसिस्टेंट है. ऑप्शन 2 ओके. ऑप्शन 3 ऑल्सो हैज कंसिस्टेंटली, सो वील कंसिडर दिस. बट ऑप्शन 4 अगेन वी रूल इट आउट बिकॉज यहाँ पे कंसिस्टेंट यूज हुआ है. ठीक है, नाउ वी आर लेफ्ट बिटवीन ऑप्शन 2 एंड ऑप्शन 3. The actor's consistently late arrival is offset somewhat by the remarkable quality of his performance. तीसरा है lately the actor is arriving consistently. तो यहाँ पे गड़बड़ क्या हो रही है, यहाँ पे सेंटेंस का मीनिंग ही चेंज हो रहा है. दिस मीन्स कि अभी कुछ दिनों से एक्टर थोड़ा कंसिस्टेंटली आ रहा है. तो दिस इज नॉट बीइंग मॉडिफाइड करेक्टली बाय कंसिस्टेंटली. कंसिस्टेंटली इज सपोज टू मॉडिफाई इट. यहाँ पे इट इज नॉट मॉडिफाइंग इट, प्लस द मीनिंग ऑफ द सेंटेंस इज चेंजिंग ऑल टुगेदर, राइट? सो इफ यू लुक एट द क्वेश्चन, the third option is changing the meaning of the question. Because one, the meaning is changing, plus the way consistently is used in the sentence, it is not modifying arrival. It is supposed to modify the arrival. Now we'll move on to the next question. A Harvard study indicates that even after a decade, young men and women still experience some of the effects of conflicts occurring when a child. I'll repeat the question. A Harvard study indicates that even after a decade, young men and women still experience some of the effects of conflicts occurring when a child. Now the way to solve this question is, सबसे पहले तो आप ये देखो कि यहाँ पे you have men and women and यहाँ पे you have child. ठीक है, तो this should be plural. Therefore we rule out the second option and we rule out the fourth option because यहाँ पे singular use हुआ है and we want children if we are referring to those men and women. Okay, now this says that this happened a decade back. ठीक है, a Harvard study indicates that even after a decade, young men and women still experience some of the effects of conflicts occurring when a child. पहले तो child आपका plural होना चाहिए. दूसरा, this is a decade old thing. Something happened 10-15 years back और उसके इफेक्ट हमें आज तक फील हो रहे हैं. So occurring when children is one, that occurred when they were children is the other option. Now what happens is, occurring when children is not really, it is not referring to something that happened in the past. This because you have something that is basically telling us that something occurred in the past. This is making more sense. It is satisfying our tense, plus it is satisfying the plural of child that we really wanted to satisfy the question. So we'll go with the third option here. Again, how did we arrive at the solution? सबसे पहले हमने देखा कि we are referring to young men and women and that is plural. So we'll pick out the options that are giving us the plural of child. And secondly, we went to discuss the tense कि कोई चीज 10-15 साल पहले हुई थी तो उसके लिए we need past tense, and the third option is satisfying that past tense. That is why we'll go with this. Finally, there's a larger question and not a small sentence for us to solve. I'll read out the question. Before its independence in 1776, Britain ruled America as a colony and they would relinquish power only after a long struggle by the native people. I'll repeat the question. Before its independence in 1776, Britain ruled America as a colony and they would relinquish power only after a long struggle by the native people. Now, in such questions, we've already discussed जब ऐसा construction होता है sentence 1, sentence 2. तो sentence 2 के beginning में जो आपका noun होता है that should be modifying sentence 1. Before its independence in 1776, किसकी independence हुई थी? Independence अमेरिका की हुई थी, क्योंकि ब्रिटेन ने अमेरिका के ऊपर राज करा था. So America was a colony of Britain. Therefore we'll rule out the first option because यहाँ पे Britain है. बाकी तीन options में अमेरिका है, तो then we'll figure out other methods to rule the next two options out. Now, if we move on to the second option, it says before its independence in 1776, America was ruled by Britain as a colony. अब यहाँ पे गड़बड़ हो गई है. यहाँ पे गड़बड़ क्या हो गई है? It is saying America was ruled by Britain as a colony. यहाँ पे ब्रिटेन को कॉलोनी बना दिया गया है, which is wrong. So we'll remove the second option too. Between the third and the fourth, before independence in 1776, America had been ruled as a colony by Britain, which relinquished power. This is seeming okay. Before independence in 1776, America had been a colony of the British, who relinquished power. This is also seeming okay. Now, between the two of these, how do we arrive at the perfect choice for us? अब ऐसे केसेस में क्या होता है? ऐसे केसेस में आप ये देखते हो कि कौन सा ज़्यादा वर्डी है और कौन सा थोड़ा सा क्रिस्प ऑप्शन है. ठीक है, अब इन दोनों में देखोगे तो अगेन द थर्ड ऑप्शन सेज रूल्ड एज अ कॉलोनी बाय ब्रिटेन. नाउ दिस इज बिकमिंग अ वेरी वर्डी कंस्ट्रक्शन एंड समवॉट सिमिलर टू व्हाट हैपेंड इन सेंटेंस 2. ठीक है, बिकॉज दिस इज बिकमिंग क्लंकी एंड वर्डी, वील रिमूव दिस. The fourth option, America had been a colony of the British, who relinquished power. This is short, this is crisp, and this is grammatically correct. यहाँ पे इन्होंने British people बोल दिया, इसलिए यहाँ पे who आ गया, right? So first is we follow the modifier rule कि कौन किसको before its independence in 1776 we ask ourselves the question whose independence. We arrive at America कि अमेरिका की इंडिपेंडेंस हुई थी, तो कॉमा के बाद अमेरिका आना चाहिए, तो हमने पहला ऑप्शन रूल आउट करा. दूसरा वाला हमने इसलिए रूल आउट करा क्योंकि अमेरिका वाज रूल्ड बाय ब्रिटेन एज अ कॉलोनी. Britain as a colony, Britain is not the colony, America is the colony. Therefore, we ruled out the second one. Between the third and the fourth, we chose which one is crisp. We removed the one which seemed more wordy and more clunky. Okay? I hope you're following how we are basically approaching these questions. Although covered in water, railway officials said that the conditions on the tracks at the time of arrival were acceptable. Again, this is sentence 1, sentence 2. And sentence 2 has to modify sentence 1. Although covered in water. What is covered in water? Tracks are covered in water. ठीक है, सबसे पहले तो हम ये देखते हैं कि which one is beginning with tracks. So we have the second one, okay, and we have the third one. Fourth one, no. Railway officials are not covered in water. Although covered in water, according to railway officials, नहीं. तो सीधा सीधा हम सेकंड और थर्ड पे आ गए क्योंकि कॉमा के बाद हमें ट्रैक्स चाहिए बिकॉज द ट्रैक्स आर कवर्ड इन वाटर. नाउ ऑल्दो कवर्ड इन वाटर, the tracks were in acceptable condition during the time of arrival according to railway officials. Okay. Although covered in water, the track conditions. No. The track conditions is not covered in water. Tracks are only covered in water. तो ये वाला भी हमने इसलिए रूल आउट कर दिया क्योंकि कॉमा के बाद आपके ट्रैक कंडीशंस आ रहे हैं. हमें ट्रैक कंडीशंस नहीं चाहिए, हमें खाली ट्रैक्स चाहिए क्योंकि खाली ट्रैक्स पानी में कवर्ड है. ठीक है, दिस वन वाज फेयरली इजी. If you've now followed the sentence 1, sentence 2 rule, you will be easily able to arrive at the answers through this method of elimination. ठीक है, now we are moving on to another question. While some academicians believe that business communication should be integrated into every business course, others say that students will take communication seriously only if it would be taught as a separately required course. This is a somewhat tougher question to solve. Read it again. While some academicians believe that business communication should be integrated into every business course, others say that students will take communication seriously only if it would be taught as a separately required course. ठीक है, ठीक है. अब हमें पता है कि करिकुलम के अंदर कुछ घुसना है ठीक है, and we are contemplating whether that has to be integrated into a course or whether students have to take a separate one. Okay, सबसे पहले you have to figure out कि यहाँ पे while some academicians, so this is the question of present tense. I'll cover tenses in detail, but थोड़ी बहुत knowledge होनी चाहिए ताकि ऐसे questions को हम solve कर पाए. Now you have only, and it is referring to would be. ठीक है, only if it is taught as a separate required course. This seems a little okay. Communication seriously if it is taught only as a course required separately. All right, if it was taught, ये past tense आ गया, ये हमने पहले ही delete कर दिया because this is not in line with the tense of the sentence. If it would only be, again this is futuristic, right? यहाँ पे we have some academicians believe what should be done, so we are talking in present tense, that's why we have eliminated past tense and we've eliminated future tense. Now we have two options between which we have to arrive at the correct one. Only if it is taught, यहाँ पे your only, your adverb is referring to teaching, and यहाँ पे if it is taught only as a course, and here it is referring to the course. Now you have to figure out कि आपका adverb किस चीज को refer करे जिससे आपका sentence का meaning satisfy हो. Read the sentence again. While some academicians believe that business communication should be integrated into every business course, others say that students will take communication seriously. XYZ. वो XYZ क्या है? We are talking about teaching the subject a certain way. We are not talking about the course. We are talking about how we need to teach it. That is why your only in sentence 1, when as an adverb it is referring to taught, when it is referring to the verb taught, it is making perfect sense because that is what the sentence is talking about. The sentence is talking about कि आपको business communication कैसे पढ़ाना है. ठीक है, so therefore in this case we'll go with the first option and not the second option, because in your second option only is referring to the course and we are referring to teaching. Yes, I hope this sentence is making sense to you now. Let's move on to the final question of the day. This is one of the tougher ones. अब हमने पहले जितने भी क्वेश्चंस करे they were intermediate level. This is an advanced level. This is the kind of question you can expect in your CAT exams. Just read it once. I'll give you 2-3 minutes to solve this one. Right? I guess you would have read the question by now, so I'll read it. A highly educated member of a wealthy aristocratic Boston family, Percival Lowell was interested in astronomy due to his belief in canals on Mars, which modern astronomers dismiss as material for pop science fiction. Okay, so we're talking about a highly educated member of a wealthy and aristocratic Boston family, right? Okay, we are talking about, now let's just break it down. ठीक है, we are talking about a member. ठीक है, तो हम एक बंदे की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? सबसे पहले we'll dig into the options and we'll see कौन सा ऑप्शन बंदे से शुरू हो रहा है. बंदा ये है Percival Lowell's interest. No, we're not talking about interest. Again, we're not talking about interest. We're talking about Percival Lowell. Okay, third and the fourth. By the process of elimination, we've already arrived at two options. ठीक है, we are talking about one person. We are talking about Percival Lowell. Now, let's look at options 1 and 2. तो हमने eliminate कर ही दिए because they're talking about someone's interest, but here we are referring to the person, right? So we're referring to Percival Lowell. Percival Lowell was interested in astronomy because he believed in canals on Mars, a view that modern astronomers dismiss as material for pop science fiction. This is your option 3. And what is your option 4? Your option 4 is Percival Lowell was interested in astronomy due to his belief in canals on Mars, with modern astronomers dismissing it as material for pop science fiction. Now, between these two, how do you arrive at the correct situation? How do we arrive at the correct answer? We break down the option furthermore. Percival Lowell was interested in astronomy because he believed in canals on Mars. Okay, so this is telling us कि Percival Lowell का interest कैसे था. And this is telling us Percival Lowell was interested in astronomy due to his belief in canals on Mars. So there is a slight difference between the meaning that both the third and the fourth options are giving you. एक option कह रहा है कि Percival Lowell interested था astronomy में because of XYZ reasons. दूसरा कह रहा है Percival Lowell was interested in an astronomy due to his belief. ठीक है. So this due to is becoming a hold up for you because it is saying astronomy due to belief in canals. But he was not interested in astronomy due to belief in canals. He was interested in astronomy because he believed कि canals होते हैं मार्स पे. ठीक है. सो फोर्थ ऑप्शन में आपको मीनिंग डिफरेंट हो रहा है क्योंकि ये जो ड्यू टू है विच इज यूज राइट नेक्स्ट टू एस्ट्रोनॉमी, ड्यू टू बिकम्स योर एडजेक्टिव. So when it is placed right next to astronomy, it is putting the entire reason of astronomy and of his interest in astronomy because of belief in canals on Mars. Whereas in the third option, it is telling you he was interested in astronomy because he believed कि canals होंगे Mars पे. चौथे वाले में कह रहा है कि he was interested in astronomy because or due to belief in canals on Mars. तो एस्ट्रोनॉमी का इंटरेस्ट का पूरा रीजन ही उन्होंने बदल दिया. एक में आपको कह रहा है कि इंटरेस्ट है मुझे इस चीज में, मुझे इंटरेस्ट है क्रिकेट खेलने में क्योंकि सचिन तेंदुलकर ने क्रिकेट खेला हुआ. दूसरा है कि मुझे इंटरेस्ट है क्रिकेट में क्योंकि सचिन तेंदुलकर को भी बहुत ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट है क्रिकेट में. ठीक है. तो देर इज अ डिफरेंस इन द रीजंस यू आर डिराइविंग फ्रॉम ऑप्शन 3 एंड ऑप्शन 4. दैट इज व्हाई we'll go with option 3 here and we'll eliminate option 4. Right? So this was a rather tougher question. These are the kind of questions you can expect in your CAT exam. But as I mentioned, हमने intermediate level से शुरू किया था. We solved some 7-10 questions at an intermediate level so that we develop some hang of or some semblance of control when it comes to modifiers. This is the one tougher question that I wanted to give you, the lust for today. Now I've got you the taste of the blood. In the sessions coming in the future, we'll delve into questions of this level, questions that you can expect in your CAT exam. Not questions, but the level of questions that you can expect in your CAT exam. So these are the kind of questions we're going to be dealing with. I'll request you to go through this video again so that you solve those intermediate level questions by yourself. अभी तो मैंने आपको सिखाया कि कैसे सॉल्व करना है. जब आप दोबारा वीडियो देखोगे, पॉज द वीडियो, try to solve those questions by yourself and then click then unpause them and see कि आपका जो सॉल्व करने का तरीका है और जो मैंने आपको सॉल्व करने का तरीका आज सिखाया है वो मैच किया या नहीं किया, या आपका आंसर सही निकला या नहीं निकला. राइट? सो रिव्यू दिस वीडियो अगेन, सॉल्व दोस क्वेश्चंस बाय योरसेल्फ. I'll see you again with more questions pertaining to modifiers. Till then, guys, stay strong, stay safe, stay mellow. I'll see you again. Thank you for attending today's class.